carrying us to places that we didn't think we were prepared to go to, and for taking us out of places that we thought we couldn't survive. Father, I just pray right now in the name of Jesus that you help us to empty ourselves out so that we can be refilled. Allowing a renewing process to take place in our minds and our hearts. Father, I declare right now in your darling Son Jesus' name that there is no failure in you. So there will be no failure in this process. We place a demand on you to do what it is that you said that you would do. We pray these things in Jesus' name, knowing that they're so. Amen. Kind of got a bunch of titles for this particular message, but I'm going to title this one Milk of the Word. Milk of the Word. As I'm dealing with this particular scripture, it's a little difficult because there's a demand on us to put a demand on him, which in turn puts a bigger demand on us. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. In the scripture, there's a demand on us to put a demand on him, which in turn puts a bigger demand on us. Anybody ever felt like the demand on you was too much?
Sometimes, yeah.
Where you felt like you were about to be overtook by what was demanded of you. That the change was going to be so big that you couldn't make it. In this particular text, Peter don't talk about that. What Peter talks about is the process of being reborn. In Peter 1:1, he talks about how, we go through a regeneration process, a wooing unto God. And there's a surety in salvation. Goes into a few rules of what it looked like. But Peter in the second chapter, he jumps out automatically and places a demand on us. And the demand is one that, if I'm real with myself, I don't hear preachers preach this. I don't hear people pray this. I don't hear people ask for forgiveness of these things. These things are like super duper 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 personal. But in the process of these things being so personal, they're normally overlooked. In the examination itself, they're overlooked. Pastor, you ain't read the scripture yet. I know, I'm trying to give you an intro to this because when I read it, it kicked me in my butt. And then I read it again thinking that it wasn't going to kick me as hard, and it kicked me harder. And the more that I read it, the harder it kicked me. Because no matter how many times I could try to find that I wasn't guilty of one of these things, I somehow found myself guilty of one of these things. And the sad part about it was, when I reflect back on my life, I never repented for those things. Oh man, I'm not meddling, but I'm meddling. Because see, this is a time of what we call spring, and normally in the spring people do what's called spring cleaning. You'll go through your cupboards, you'll go through your basement, you'll go find everything that is no longer useful to you that you've been accumulating over time. And in the process of finding the things that have accumulated over time, you'll tend to find things that you didn't know were there. You'll deal with things that you intended to do this time last year, but just didn't get around to it. I'm meddling, I know, but you begin to discover some things that don't even make sense when you look at the true swing of things, the true gist of life that you're living, or the quality in which you want to live it in. And all of a sudden you begin to look and you'll see this thing and it's like, that's really out of place. It probably has a better purpose, but I can't figure out where. Let me help you. Peter says, so put aside every trace of malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and slander and hateful speech. Peter, why your list so long? Why your list so long? I could read more of the scripture, but why? Because for years I blew past the long list that really didn't look all that long when I didn't consider it for myself. I was always looking at somebody else. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be real. Because sometimes when we do a little spring cleaning, we look at who made the mess instead of who's responsible for fixing. Come on, somebody say it with me. I ain't worried about who made the mess.
I ain't worried about who made the mess.
I ain't worried about who made the mess. I'm trying to help you here because, see, when you get that mentality in your mind, I ain't worried about who made the mess. You'll fix the mess in you. And you can stop looking at them to do it for you. You stop trying to make somebody take accountability for what's in you. Let's think about that. How do I make somebody take accountability for what's in me? Well, you spilled the Kool-Aid, but who discovered the mess? The mess still need to get up, right? Don't matter who spilled the Kool-Aid. Come on, I'm guilty because when I was a kid, me and Gary would make messes and be trying to blame each other on it because we was getting each other's whoopings. And it was really making me mad because he would make more messes than me. So I would make messes all over the house just so that he could get a whooping finally because I wouldn't be at home. But I'm trying to get you to understand that sometimes you got to take accountability for mess regardless of who possesses it. Did that come out right? Did that make sense to y'all? Regardless of who possesses it. Because if indeed I'm always trying to place accusation for where mess comes up, I'm no different than the enemy. The enemy is called the accuser of the brethren. What do you mean? Let me help you out. It's an old saying in the streets that snitches get stitches. You always telling on somebody, and the tattletale always got beat up, right?
Yep.
And what you got to understand is sometimes we in the spiritual realm will run around as tattletales.
Yep.
Because what we'll do is we'll see something wrong, and we're ready to point the finger. But if God gave us something to see, there's an assignment that comes along with it. Let me help y'all. He said, put aside every trace of malice. Let me help you with this, because I had to deal with this list, because this list was bugging me. You know, malice is the thought process of the desire to see something happen to somebody. I don't know about nobody else, but sometimes when people do some things to me, I'll be wanting to see something happen. Oh Lord, maybe I'm just a horrible person, but you know, it's just one of them things where, you know, it may not be the worst case scenario of it, but I want that person to, I want them to acknowledge the mess.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Because see, if we really true to ourselves in this, we can sit back and we can skip over malice, because malice sounds so horrible when it's a description of your character. Don't nobody want to take on that descriptive word when you're describing you. But anybody ever wanted somebody to take accountability for their mess?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And watch this. Because they wouldn't, you start having thoughts of how they could.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts of why they won't. Thoughts of, Lord, why don't you let them see it so that they can be accountable for their actions? I don't know about nobody else, but yeah, boy. Let's be real. David even prayed a prayer like that. Lord, go get my enemies they're out there before me and do bad things to them. Because in David's heart, David was fearful. Sometimes in life, we become a little fearful. And that very fear that we have turns into a desire. Let me help you out. Fear is nothing more than a thought, initially. But when that thought grows up, when that thought matures, it becomes a desire. Malice is, I'm going to be honest, it don't sound good. It's a desire to cause pain, injury, or distress to another. Pain, injury, or distress to another. It's a desire to inflict harm or suffering. It's a hostile impulse. Or a deep-seated meanness. Meanness. When I went to look up the word, this one word kept jumping out at me. And the word that kept jumping out at me was spite. So a person that may have malice in their heart, they're kind of vengeful. There's a get-back factor with a person that has malice. Many times, a person that has malice in their heart, they don't know that they got malice in their heart. They don't recognize the malice. Because by being so deep-seated, it's a natural reaction. People with malice are very messy. They're very, 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 very messy. They always got drama following them because they create it. People with malice, how do you put it? Somebody that's spiteful. They do things just because. Just because. And many times, it started as a fear again, grew up into a desire, and the desire may have been just because. Well, anybody have been around somebody that just do things just because all the time? And in them just because moments, you be really wanting to say something, but you don't want to sing. Malice, I'm sorry, I didn't want to do that to you. Because, sometimes when we take on other people's messes and we get mad about the messes, we become spiteful. Just drink a little tea. Talking about what Peter talking about. Then Peter goes on to deceit. And this was a hard one for me, because see, deceit can be done on so many different levels. You could just be a bold-faced liar, and you're a deceiver. But you could be a person that, could be forgetful, and still be a deceiver. Wanna know why? Because in my forgetfulness, a lot of times I'll make it convenient for me to forget, because it becomes an excuse for me not to have to remember. Kind of like yesterday when you were telling me we were supposed to go to Shanika's thing, and my excuse was I forgot. But this morning I remember before you said it, and was like, uh-oh. I knew it was something I was supposed to be doing yesterday. Don't know what it was, but I knew I was supposed to be doing something. Uh-oh. And it was convenient for me to forget. But the funny part about this, it's not that I'm deceiving anybody else. It's that I'm really deceiving myself when I'm in that mode. See, deceit can hit more than one person. Deceit can hit you. If indeed you don't put it away. Let me give you the little description. It's the act of keeping the truth hidden. The act of keeping the truth hidden. Wait a minute. So that means if I'm deceived, I know what the truth is, but it was hid from me. Anybody ever knew the answer to something? And at the end of the day, because you didn't want to be responsible for it, you played like you didn't know the answer? I'm just throwing general things out here because we all guilty of it at some state of time. How about this? Anybody ever did something in life where the accusation came back to you, and for some strange reason, you had a hard time remembering what you did? I'm going to give you an example. See, once upon a time, I was a class clown. And in being the class clown, the teacher said, I'm going to call your mama. Me being so smart, and I knew the truth, because watch this. She didn't know the truth, and I wasn't going to tell her the truth, but I knew the truth was my mama didn't get home till 5 o'clock. You was going to call my house at 4. Wasn't nobody going to be there. Ha ha. I'm a deceiver. And I conveniently left out that truth. I ain't lying. I just didn't tell the truth. Let me help y'all. It's a whole lot of time we leave out the details of what we did. So when mama asked me what happened at school, I don't know. What you mean you don't know? I don't know. Watch this. I wasn't lying. Because in my mind, I mean, not in hers, but in mine, I don't know what happened because I ain't do nothing. I'm trying to help everybody on camera that's watching this by video. The next time you whoop your kids for saying, I don't know, whoop yourself because you did it too. I don't know. And all of a sudden, guess what? You didn't know, but you know because you know a whole lot more than what you really want to tell. And, wait a minute, who are you really fooling? Let me help you out. Deceit is a choice. It's not something that, it didn't start as a thought. It didn't start from fear. Deceit is a flat out choice. It is, I don't want to get caught. I don't want to be found out. I don't want to be seen. I don't want you to know. Wait a minute. Deceit starts from a place that we call pride. Because it's always to your advantage. You don't deceive somebody unless it's to your advantage. You don't hide or withhold the truth unless it's to your advantage. Wait a minute. If you're always trying to get an advantage, that means that you don't feel like you have one in the kingdom. So many times you are a deceitful person because you feel like you don't have or you can't get. If anybody ever felt like you couldn't get, let me help you out. I remember in school, I wasn't the greatest fighter. I was a lover, not a fighter. And I dealt with a bunch of ruffians. And in order to deceive the ruffians, I went and tried to beat up the biggest one. Just thinking, you know what? I'm probably going to lose this fight. But I'm going to get some respect because I went after somebody that didn't nobody go after. So in my mind, I'm really trying to deceive everybody else around me, and I'm trying to psych myself up because I'm tired of being picked on. So I got to deceive them to make everybody else think that I'm tough. Wait a minute. And come on, anybody ever put on the air to make somebody think something that you really weren't? Peter said, put it off, put it off, put it off. He said it really ain't working to your advantage. Speech or behavior that keeps the truth hidden. That's another way of doing it. The misrepresentation of the truth would be another one. Anything that's dishonest or illegal would be something else you can possibly put down as an act of deceit. How about this? The mask. Oh, Jesus, the mask. Oh, did I just do? I did that, didn't I? The mask. Wait a minute. You know the mask that says, you know what? I am who I think I am because I said that I am, but I know I ain't. But I don't want you to know I ain't. I guess you can call deceit fake.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with it. If I'm real, but I still have malice, I'm still in the wrong place. See, this is where the list started messing with me because I could begin to eliminate different things in my life where, the category don't fit me and I could see it on somebody else. But when I did that, then all of a sudden, when I stopped that, and I still got this here, man, I got an even bigger problem. Because here's what's funny. More times than not, you're deceiving people because you have malice in your heart. This is where it started hitting me. Because Peter said, I don't want you to understand, it's not just a list. This is how things begin. Let me help you. Because you couldn't forgive them or yourself, you got malice in your heart. Because you got malice in your heart, then all of a sudden you began to deceive, yourself. Because you wanted to act like you were healed in front of other people so that they would see you being healed, so that they wouldn't be looking at you with pity. But all of a sudden, now you ain't getting the attention that you really wanted, so now you go back to the place of malice because you hid what was really real, so nobody can touch the real issue with you. Oh, Jesus, let me stop. Oh, Jesus, I know I'm in the place, but he went even further. He said, I need you to stop the hypocrisy. Stop the hypocrisy. Stop with that, that super duper, super ooper religious talk. Because here's what's funny. If you believe the word, you'll be able to apply it. Let me say that again. If you believe the word, then you'd be able to apply it. The difference between one who believes and one who doesn't, but acts like they do, is all in application. It's all in application. Pastor, you didn't describe hypocrisy. I'm trying to help you because, see, many times that's yet another word we don't want to put behind our name. Come on, you'll never hear nobody say, please forgive me for being a hypocrite. I is a hypocrite. You don't hear it too often. Why don't you hear it too often? Because don't nobody really want to be called a hypocrite. We like to call other people hypocrite, maybe because of the malice in our heart. But we don't call ourselves that. Wait a minute, that's a mess that you know what? I'm going to overlook and I'm going to let somebody else pick up. Am I losing anybody in this? Because as a hypocrite, let me give you a better example. There's a scripture that says, let not a double-minded man ask or think or expect anything from God. You could literally put hypocrite in there. Why? Because a hypocrite is double-minded. A hypocrite will say, you know what, I believe God, but. A hypocrite will literally say, you know what, I am a product of the Lord. And then find every way in the world to discount the product. A hypocrite says that I am very, 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 very positive. But then we'll find every negative thing to cut down the very thing that they said they were. It's a hypocrite. No, that's a double-minded man. No, it's a hypocrite. Because they believe something to a standard of deceit. I believe it to make other people believe that I believe it. But I don't believe it in my own heart because I can't apply it. So I had to give a better definition than what the dictionary gave me. Because real talk, if indeed I can't apply what I believe, what do I really believe? Love is patient, love is kind. Love is long-suffering. Love never boasts. Love never sits back and counts wrongs. Love doesn't do that. And boy, I'll be sitting there looking at him staring and be like, I know I can't change one jot or two, but can I strike out this word or strike out that? I'm sorry, that just be me sometimes. And everybody ain't that way, you know. But because that I don't want that to apply to that. No, I don't. Lord, leave me alone. That, no! Well, that would make me a hypocrite. Because God is love, and I can't start striking out things in his character because they don't fit mine. Uh-oh. Did that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when God says that you're prosperous, when God says that you're mighty, when God says everything that he said about you and confirmed it, if I find myself striking out those words, what would that make me? Maybe an unbeliever. A doubter? Help you out. There's a huge difference between doubt and unbelief. You want to know what it is? Unbelief is rejecting what truth is presented to you. Doubt is just the fact that I'm not sure. Nothing wrong with being unsure. To be unsure doesn't make you a hypocrite. It makes you human. Watch this. What makes you a hypocrite is not the thought. The same way that as malice getting in your heart was not the thought. The same way the deceit. It's not the thought. It's the action. I can doubt all day. If I don't do nothing, I didn't sin. But when I present and make a choice of action, I now did something against the Lord. Against myself. Hypocrites, yeah. Then he got talking about this envy thing. Man, this one started melting with me. Because see, what's funny about envy is you don't become envious of somebody because you really want what they have. You become envious because you just don't want them to have it. You don't become envious of somebody because you believe that they're qualified. You're envious because you feel like they're not qualified. Because you really believe they don't deserve what they have. You really want an example? Cain and Abel. Cain didn't like the favor that Abel got, and he was envious. Wait a minute, envy took him to killing people, didn't it? Envy could be dangerous then, huh?
Yes, Lord.
Wait a minute, envy will make you assassinate characters. Envy will have you thinking outside of where you're really supposed to be thinking. Let me help you. If you really paid attention to the seed was sown with malice, some offense that you caught. And all of a sudden, you were wanting or trying to make somebody be accountable for the mess that you don't want to clean up. Okay? And then all of a sudden, you began to use deceit to either mask what the offense was or trick them into doing it. It's a forcing. Deceit is real dangerous too because it fringes on witchcraft. We're going to look at witchcraft. Witchcraft. That's the word. Witchcraft. It fringes on witchcraft. Hypocrisy will then sit back and make you make up a belief so that other people can believe, so that you can continue to deceive them and feed your malice. But when I get to envy, that's all of these things mixed together, which have now deceived me to where, watch this, I can't even hear God, or I don't hear what even somebody else is saying to me in the correct fashion because I don't think they're qualified to tell me that. Oh, Jesus. You ever felt like somebody wasn't qualified to give you advice?
Yep.
And as you began to listen, you were picking apart everything that they were saying, not to get something for yourself, but to have something to say. Oh, I'm sorry, that's envy. Because, wait a minute, if a donkey could have wisdom, why can't God use anybody? Peter was a sailor. He was a cusser. He'd cut you if you wasn't careful. But he used them to build his church. So my question to you is, how is it that we can disqualify anybody if God even picked us? Oh, Jesus. Did I just...
That's good. That's good. That's good.
How do I disqualify anybody? When, wait a minute, I can look back on my life. Wait a minute. I could just look back on the previous 3 sins. And I got some house cleaning to do. That's what envy is. Envy will have you to the point where you can't hear straight. Somebody can be telling you, hey, I love you. But because of your perception of them, because of how you've deceived yourself, and how you want to present yourself to them, you disqualify what is said to you. What is given to you, watch this, what might be even given to them. You know, I remember when I was younger, I was really envious of my brother because he would get all the attention. And he had the cute nicknames, and they gave me the nasty nickname, and I didn't like it. And we're not going there because if I ever hear it again, I promise you I'm gonna throw something. You're gonna find malice in my heart. But we're gonna leave that alone. But in the process of it, I was envious of him because I was like, why did y'all give him names that you can say in public and stuff you say to me is like, this is really embarrassing. So I beat him up all the time. I was envious of his name, something somebody else gave him. I didn't want his name. I just didn't want him to have it. How about this? The attention that they paid him. I didn't really want the attention. I just didn't want him to have it. They would buy him all kinds of gifts. I didn't even want the gifts. I just didn't want him to have them. Why were you so doggone mean? Well, no, I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you, you know what? He didn't deserve it. I'm tired of taking his whooping. I mean, I got some offense in my heart that's deep-seated. And it's really something bigger than what I'm even letting on to, because now I'm deceiving you and I'm deceiving myself. And I can't admit to it, but I'm going to tell you one thing and be doing another and thinking a whole nother thing, which means now I'm a hypocrite. But in the process of being a hypocrite, of all these things and where my mind is going and where my thoughts are and where my heart is, now I really want to kill you because I don't think you should have what you should have. I'm gonna help you out. Envy just ain't the fact of, I just don't want you to have it. I want you eliminated. I want you eliminated. You must be taken out of the equation. But don't make me a part of it, because then that's my responsibility and I don't want that. I'm just talking low. How deep? Lord said, Peter said. But you got an even bigger problem now when you realize that maybe you ain't envious no more. You don't really want to kill them, but you just can't shut the hell up. Slander. I'm sorry. See, I want you to understand something. I kind of ran slander and hateful speech together. Because, that's the talking version of it. But, and honestly, you just can't shut up. Because you're envious and you now have this disqualification of a particular person, party, or thing, you begin to say what you're thinking. But if you're deceived, how can you give a great assessment of something that you're deceived about? Oh, gee, I think I did that. Come on. Anybody ever been in a room and you heard two people tell a story or an account of a story that they both saw at the same time, but it was two different versions? Some people would say it's a perspective. But let me help you out. Close your eyes. What you think it is. Once upon a time, it was this woman in the supermarket. And she had 4 kids. And these kids was running around the doggone supermarket. And they loud and they unruly. And she took her house shoe off and began to spank her children in the fish aisle. And as she spanked these kids just would not stop crying. And it looked as if she put a bruise on one of the children. Amen. You heard the story. But watch this. 2 people in the room probably got 2 different perspectives of what went down and why. And they feel 2 different ways. Not because it ain't the truth, but for what's in your heart at that moment, that will dictate your truth. Pay attention to what I just said. It will dictate your truth. Does it mean that it's not the truth? No, it don't. Does it mean that it is the truth? No, it don't. It just means that that's my truth. That's what I believe to be true. Here's what's funny. If you go and tell that story, and then you go and tell that story, and it's not the truth, but it's your truth, will we consider that to be slander? Wow. Most people wouldn't. Most people wouldn't. How about this? That lady beat her kids in the store. She ain't had no right doing that. That baby all bruised up and the 99. And didn't nobody know that that woman was in the store with $3 and she was trying to feed all 5 kids on them $3, and them babies is breaking glass, and she got to pay for that, and now she can't afford the food, so she whooped her child to try and get that child ruled. That does not excuse what it. Well, let me help you out. The whole story is not the story that you. So if you went and told something, you told a half-truth. Correct? A half-truth is a lie. Watch this. Slander is speaking ill of someone, usually with an untruth or half-truth. So many times we didn't even realize that we were slandering somebody because we gave our perception of a particular situation without knowing the full truth. Opening our mouths. I saw that they wasn't feeling so well, and this, that, and that. Ooh, what happened here? And when all of a sudden now it became a gossip topic because you didn't have full truth. Because the truth don't need no backup. Did anybody just catch what I just did there? There's no room for gossip when there's the truth. Think about that. If the truth came out, you can't add or subtract from it. It's the truth. Anything otherwise is a half-truth. It's a lie. It's gossip. So all of a sudden, watch this. If I'm a miserable old fart, and I just let it be known that I'm a miserable old fart, you can really believe that I'm a miserable old fart. Just because, guess what? It's the truth. The funny part about the truth is you tell it over and over and over again, and it don't change. But if you tell slander, you'll have a whole nother story by the time you get back around. But then it got to talking about hateful speech. Sometimes we as people will know the truth about something, but we'll spill the truth out with malice in our heart so that we can get an advantage.
Yeah.
Come on, anybody ever had some information on somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of having this information, it wasn't really to help them, even though that was, that's the mask I put on. It ain't really to help them. It's the fact that, you know what, I got some facts on you right now. I got some evidence on you. I got some dirt on you. And you throw that dirt out there on that person and bang. Because the truth was given with a motive. Anybody ever get the truth with a motive?
Oh, yeah.
See, the funny part about it, the Bible instructs us to tell the truth in love. Wait a minute. Love is never self-seeking. Ain't that one of the things that 1 Corinthians 13 says? Love never seeks itself. So love will never have a motive. So if I'm telling the truth with somebody with a motive, it's really ill speaking of them because, for real, I'm trying to put you on blast. But why am I trying to put you on blast? Because 9 times out of 10, I've run the circle of those other sins that I've sat back and explained to you just thus far. And I'm now at a standstill. Uh-oh. When you get a chance, I want you to put standstill in your notes. I'm at a standstill. Just to meddle with y'all, I'm going to read you the Negro version of this particular scripture. And the Negro version, or Message Bible version, says, "So clean house, make a clean sweep of malice and pretense, envy and hurtful talk. You have had a taste of God." Wait a minute, you had a taste of God. Anybody ever tasted God in the room? Because I want you to understand something. When you are reborn in Christ, when you become a new creature, when you're regenerated in Him, and I want you to understand this thing happens on dimensional levels. So from dimension to dimension, you'll be reborn again, and you don't even know it because you have to be remade to do what you need to do in the dimension that you're required to do it in. That's why you're constantly being transformed. You're being remade. And I want you to understand, in the remaking of, we have to keep things real simple. Hear me on this. It's as if you're going through your infancy again. Everything is in infancy stages. And when you get to this level or that level or this level or that level or this dimension or that dimension, you go back to an infancy level because you're not a master on that level. So you have to go back to thinking about the things that God has done, the goodness of the Lord, and how he's taken you from place to place, done the things that he's done, been miraculous in your life, been a keeper, been an encourager, been love, been all the things that you have not known because you're now in a place that you don't know. I mean, Jesus once said to the disciples, he just got through healing a man, and kids came to play with Jesus, and the disciples were like, "Don't get away from them, you old ratchet kids." And Jesus was like, "No, let them young ones come to me, because that's how you get into the kingdom of heaven. You got to go back to your infancy." Let me help you out. In your kingdom work, you got to go back to your infancy. You got to go back to the small, simple things of God, because that's where he does big things. That's where you renew your gratefulness. Well, did I just do that? Let me help you out. Because see, if your gratefulness ain't renewed, you're going to fall into that list. And you're going to stay in that list. And you're going to be stuck in that list. And what you'll find is you'll be stuck in life. Anybody ever felt stuck? Like you were going somewhere, but you didn't feel comfortable going, and you couldn't really go because you didn't know how. And it became, you start looking at all the bigger things ahead of you, but here goes the problem. You need to eat. You need to learn how to walk. You talking about swimming across the Jordan River, but you can't walk up the hill yet. Huh? Did anybody pay attention to Elijah right after he left Mount Carmel? Did y'all not pay attention to the fact that Elijah hit the height of a particular dimension in his life, and the minute that he did it, he went right back to infancy. He went and ran to a cave. Lord, I need your help. I need you. Did not God just do something real amazing in front of you? And when you did a simple thing for him to do, and now you running. That old witch Jezebel won't kill me. I'm the only prophet out here. And she mad. She burning mad. She's so mad that I done went in there and I done tore up everything and all the prophets dead. And ain't nobody going to tell her what she want to hear. And it's going to be bad. I got to go to the cave. Oh, Jesus. And then God comes and he said, Elijah. Can you hear me? Is that you in the wind? I gotta play with your senses now. I gotta retune your senses. Wait a minute, a baby gotta get his senses right before you can start walking, right? I gotta retune your senses, and I gotta retune your sight, and I gotta retool everything about you because you went back to an infancy stage because you already hit a dimension. You went to the next dimension. I'm trying to help you because when you're dealing with this phase of life, this I'm stuck stage, and we all get to that I'm stuck stage, but we really ain't stuck. We just ain't thankful. Can I say that again? Yeah. We really ain't stuck. We just ain't thankful. Because we can run down everything that's wrong, but it's real hard for us to name what's right. That probably means I'm not really too thankful, because I should have a whole lot more to thank God for, because I got a whole lot of days and a whole lot of years on my side that somebody didn't have. I got faculties, I used to trip off that in the old Baptist church. Ooh, I got my right mind and the faculty of my limbs, and I was like, shut up! But that was a new dimension for them. I gotta thank you, Lord, for the faculty in my limbs, and I be dead in my right mind, because you know what? Oh, I almost lost my mind up in here, and Lord was like, no, I'm gonna keep you. And I had to learn how to be thankful, because if I don't become thankful, I'm gonna allow a seed of malice to get into my heart, which is gonna keep me at the place that I'm stuck at. Don't know if you ever had that I'm stuck moment. That I'm stuck where it felt like God put you on the shelf, or God just stopped talking to you. Or better yet, God just wasn't fooling with you in this season. I don't know if anybody ever felt that way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lord.
But it wasn't that God wasn't fooling with you. Guess what? Because of all the things that you have in your heart, you wasn't fooling with him. He can't get close to somebody that covered themselves up. Y'all remember Adam in the garden? Hey, yo, Adam, where you at, man? Where you at? Where you at? You know I see you, right? I'm just asking you where you at to see if you're going to lie to me. How many times has God asked you where you at? How many times he asked, hey, cuckoo, where you at? Where you at? Cuckoo! Hey, let's play, man. Come on. Come on now, play. Come on, let's sing. You know how we used to do it back in the day. Well, I got me a new tune. Do-woo. Come on, sing with me. Where you at? Come on, let's talk. You know, all you do now is scream at me. You don't say nothing nice to me no more. Let's talk. Come on, let's be real. Because when those things are in our hearts, guess what? We don't have the same sensitivity to God because these things make us insensitive. When you get to that new dimension, you got to have a true sensitivity to God that, watch that, you got to return back to your first love. You got to believe what you really believe and not waver. Oh, yeah. You got to take on his character like never before because, you know what, you being molded and shaped, you're accountable for it in this level, but you're really not, but you really are. Because now I'm forming it on a whole new dimension. Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody ever seen a triple cheeseburger, huh? A lot of times they give you the fat bun at the bottom so it can hold everything up. You know, that fat fluffy bun on the bottom, that foundation. That's how God do you when you first come into the kingdom. He make everything fat and fluffy for you. Then you drop a piece of beef, some cheese, and you put a little dressing on top of it, whatever you're going to put on it, and then you drop another piece of bread on top. But this piece of bread is real thin. Well, you hit a whole nother dimension of the burger, didn't you? But this dimension ain't fat and fluffy like the last one. So you can't do what you did in the last one, but you still got to do what you did because it's still a foundation for something yet to come. Am I in the house? You following me? Mm-hmm. So if indeed that's the case, and I can't do what I once did, and I got to trim off of a lot of what I was already doing just to be a foundation for what's to come, I have to accept what's to come. Let me help you out. The glory comes because it's the weight of the sandwich. Because you got the weight, the meat coming on top of you. Wait a minute, the meat's coming on top of me. I got to support something heavier than me. Pay attention to what I just said. I got to support something heavier than me. So that means that I can't be heavy. And then on top, you got a big old fat fluffy bun again. And it make everything look pretty. Until somebody bites into it. Why did I just say that? Because you being who you are in the kingdom, people are going to take bites out of you. Because you're fruit. Fruit is designed to be eaten. If it's not eaten, it ain't no good to nobody. So my question to you is this. If the seed on the inside of me can't transform into anything but itself, And that seed starts out as malice, and the fruit becomes deceit, hypocrisy, envy, slander, and hateful speech. And I begin to see these things around me constantly. Could it be that people are biting that from me, or am I taking it from somebody else? I'm not placing no blame. Because what we got to understand is, if I do self-inventory for real, I know those things are in me. And if you can say they're not, man, you done made it to the top of the mountain and people are biting out of you constantly. Constantly. But if you can find those things anywhere in your life, and I'm going to help you, like spirits attract, so a lot of times people that have those seeds in them are going to be able to relate to you. I'm being 100. So what's funny is, if I hold a seed of malice in my heart and I get with somebody else that got some malice in their heart, we gonna click up real good. If I'm sitting up and I'm real envious and I don't want to see nobody have nothing, we call them petty people. Because that's all it really is pettiness. I don't want to see you have it, and I don't really want it, but I don't think you deserve it. It's petty folk. And in the process of petty, if I get with another petty person, guess what? We're going to link up real good. But if I get with somebody that don't think that way, clash. If I see somebody that's a hypocrite and I'm not, or if somebody sees me as a hypocrite and they're not, it's going to be a clash. If I'm seeing a slanderer, watch this. You don't always have to slander somebody else. You can slander yourself. Because if you believe the half-truth about you, and you begin to speak those things as if they are not, guess what ends up happening? You get half of what you were supposed to get, and you be mad because you ain't never satisfied with what you're getting because you speaking half of what you're supposed to be. It's a faith action. It's the law of confession. The Lord said, I'm trying to give you spiritual house cleaning right now because it's some things going on that we're doing and we're releasing into the atmosphere, and it's going to become real contaminated real soon. And nobody's going to want to bite out of us when the burger's done. We've been validating our desires way too long, but the problem is my children, you're no longer on the foundational level, and those desires are no longer validated because your desires should become my desires, and that's what happens on the second level. I have to change your desires when you get to that second dimension because I got to put something on top of you now. And if your desires are in the way, it won't allow what's supposed to be in place to be put in place. Come on, let's just be real. This is all these things start out from a seed where we didn't get our desire met. At the end of the day, something in our desire system did not click. And the Lord said, I need y'all to come on and come out of that place. You're stuck. You stuck on that desire. 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 But the problem is, as long as you stay stuck on that desire, guess what? You can't walk in this new dimension. And watch this. You're dying in this dimension because you're malnutritious. What do you mean? Most times when we're stuck, we sit there, we're sitting there screaming and kicking like a little baby, but don't want to act like one. Like we put a mask on. I don't want nobody to see that I don't know. I don't want nobody to see that I'm confused. I don't want nobody to see. Then we start talking about everybody else so that we don't look like we really stupid. I start slandering somebody else so that I can keep my image. So I can keep my place. Because I don't know. Well, this is what the Lord said. He said, like newborn babies, you should long for pure milk, for the pure milk of the word. Many places in the Bible, milk is talked about in a real nasty form. But Peter said, I want you to understand, when you get to this next dimension in God, because you're a baby in this dimension, you got to eat what babies eat. That means you got to go back to the promises and understand that, you know what, every promise belongs to me. You got to go back to the love scripture in Solomon and understand that, you know what, the Lord loves you just that much. You got to go back to David and understand how hard-headed David was, but God never gave up on David. Oh, Jesus. You got to understand that for every trial, tribulation that the children of Israel went to, it was only because they turned their backs on him, not because God didn't love them. Oh, Jesus. You got to understand that he gave his only begotten son so that you and I will have everlasting life in fellowship with the Father. Well, this is the pure milk, the basics, the foundational stuff. I'm just on the second foundation. I don't have to have it in the extent that I had it on the bottom level. But because I'm in the middle now, I might need some reminders. Because these reminders will make me thankful for where I just came from. Did anybody miss that? Because if I'm always talking about what I don't have on this new level, I can't live on this level long. And you were made to be living on this level and be prosperous on this level. You were made to be abundant in this dimension, this new place in God. And the problem is, I'm too busy telling God about what I don't have, and God is sitting there like, what's in your hands? Do you really see what's in your hands? Can you really? Come on. You remember we used to play this game. What's in your hands? How many times did the prophet tell you, look at your hands and see what's coming out of? What's in your hands? Wait a minute. This is the time to go back and revisit all the prophetic words that came, because maybe this is the season for them to manifest. But I can't if I'm running around with malice in my heart. I won't receive it. I can't take nothing that was heavy. Last night I went and sat out at my partner's house, and he does a little barbecue business and things of that nature, and the deacon came through and he ordered like 5 platters of ribs. And he's like, yeah, we gonna do dinner at the church. And man, my prayer is that, we reach one. And I looked at him, I said, what? That's all? And he's like, what? What you talking about? I said, that's all you expected God to do? Did God not give you the provision to make this happen? Yeah. Didn't Jesus feed 5,000 off a little bit? And all he asked was for the Father to increase. Why ain't you asking the Father for increase? He looked at me and didn't know what to do. He couldn't receive it because guess what? He was still trying to stay on the foundational level. But the problem was he was in a new dimension, because on the foundational level, you're the one being fed. But when you start being the feeder, you're now in a whole new dimension. He had to step his game up. He had to step his belief up. He had to step up and empty himself out of all the things that were ordinary down here. On the foundational level, he had to empty himself out of those things. He could not grasp it. And dude was like, oh my God. And the Lord said, just tell him. So I began to prophesy to him about what he's going through in the church and how the Lord was about to bring him to the forefront. And this has really been his prayer. But the problem is, you've been looking for influence in the wrong places. It's because you've been placing your prayer in the wrong places. Pray over the food and ask for the soul's increase. Because there's a whole other spot that's ordained for you when the increase comes. And he looked at me, and this man began to cry. We in the rain, he began to cry. And D is like, all right, man, let's pray with him, let him go, man, because I don't know if he can take no more. And dude was just like, this is just too heavy. This is just too heavy. And all I could see was that little bitty piece of bread sitting on top of the other bread. And here come the meat. This is too heavy. This is too heavy. This is too heavy. You want to know why it was too heavy? Because his expectation was not for God to do that. He was in a place of stuck. And all out of the place of stuck. But his assignment was to be in the place where he was stuck and prosper. The place of stuck is the place that blesses you. It's the place that wants to, I don't want to be here. But God's here. So where else do I really want to be if God is here? This is where God is teaching again. But we even got so smart because, sometimes we get too grown. Anybody ever felt like they're too grown? Can't tell me nothing. I know this. You know what? I heard that scripture 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. Tired of hearing it. Man, I sat in the church and I wish somebody would preach this thing different. Can anybody give a different revelation? Somebody, please help me. I'm dying in this place called stuck. And the Lord said, and this place is where I want to teach you. Why are you looking to them to do what I want to do? I mean, this place called stuck where all my emotions all over the place and it feel like everywhere I go I'm getting stabbed. Oh, Jesus, help me. I'm bleeding on the inside. Let me help you out. I don't need you to go to them. I want to patch you up myself. I'm trying to give you the eternal healing, not the temporary patchwork. Let me help you out. Oh, Lord, I can't control my mouth. I don't know how to shut up. It'll be all right because I will separate you from everybody else to where you can't talk to nobody but me. Jesus, that's the place called stuck because you don't know how to shut up. So guess what? I'm going to let you run everybody away from you until you can learn to talk to me. Because when you learn to talk to me, you'll learn how to talk to them.
Yes, Lord.
Place called stuck. Come on, anybody been in a place called stuck? Where you wanted to run, but the only problem was you didn't have no strength.
Yes.
How about that? You wanted to run, but you ain't know where the hell go. How about that? You want to run, but ain't nowhere to go.
Ain't nowhere.
I want to talk about a place called stuck. Because it get like that in the spiritual realm a lot. Because guess what? This is a growing up time. I need you to get a refill there, buddy. Get you a refill. Come on and get a refill. Anybody ever felt like they wanted a refill? You just needed to, I need a do-over. Yeah, do-overs. They're the coolest thing ever. Till you mess up the do-over. And then you got to try, can I get another one? Because if I don't get another one, I'm going to be stuck. Anybody feel like that? You just keep making the same mistake over and over and over, and you like, I ain't really that slow, am I, Lord? If you come closer, you'll hear it differently next time. Let me help y'all. How many times have you heard somebody screaming? You could pick out certain words that they were saying, but you couldn't hear what they had to say. Many times in a place called stuck, we're far from God because our hearts are far from God. So we can't hear what we're supposed to be hearing. Yeah. So Peter tells us, you should just crave, you should be desiring, you should be longing for this spiritual milk, the simple things of God, the basics of God. Because if you refresh yourself on the basics, you always get something new. In the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. But wait a minute, when the Word was with God, that meant Jesus was with God. But when God sat back in Genesis, he said, let there be light, and there was the heavens. And stars, and you're like, well, where was Jesus at then? And all of a sudden, now you got questions you can begin to ask God, and now you got conversation, and all of a sudden you begin a breakdown of the basics of the Word, and you get a deeper revelation. And when you get a deeper revelation, all of a sudden, the place that you saw as stuck is really the place that is blessing you, because now you don't see stuck. What you see is purpose. But this is what the word will do to you because you get washed in the word. You get washed in the word. You get washed in the word. You keep getting washed. You keep getting washed. And it said it make you white as snow. But before you were ever washed, you was filthy like a scarlet rag. You was blood drenched. Didn't nobody want to deal with you. You wouldn't even pick you up. But God did. And it was that pure milk of the word that started making you white again, cleaning you up. And it took time. Because just like a baby, the only nourishment that baby can start out on is milk. When I get to the next dimension, the only thing I can start out on is milk. I don't need nothing deep. I just need to know God loves me. That God got a plan for me. That his plan don't ever fail for me. Did y'all just hear that? I'm going to say, because see, here goes the problem. Most preachers ain't going to tell you that the plan ain't going to fail. And don't make it personal. Oh, see, that's the problem. I'm always living behind somebody else's revelation. I need a revelation, Lord.
Yes, Lord.
And that's what the pure milk gives us. Mm-hmm. The next stage of the pure milk makes me get a revelation to watch that I begin to move in his way, in his and in his honor, and in his plan. And I get out of my own plan, because when I start trying to implement my own plan, it's usually because I'm lost.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Lord.
He said you just long for this pure milk, so that by it you might be nurtured and grow in respect to salvation. Amen. Nobody ever said nothing about respect to salvation. They already told me I was saved, and that was it. The problem is, if I'm growing in congruency, in coherence with salvation. Because see, salvation gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more of him that I get in me. But if I don't ever grow in salvation, guess what? I'm just barely trying to get in. How many people have heard that before?
Yep.
I ain't barely trying to get in. I want an 18-wheeler behind me. And let's go on and hey, come on, drive to join in. Come on. We finna party. Yeah. I want a band. Let's celebrate this thing. Let's do it big. Ain't that how God do it? Well, if I'm going to do it in God's character, I don't need to be barely getting in. I need to do it big. Am I going to be comfortable enough with God to do it big? Oh, Jesus. Come on. I'm asking questions, because now, guess what? If I can think about that, I can have a conversation with God now. If I want to do it big, what would you really allow me to do? I know this your house and all. I don't want to just come up in your house and, be bringing all kinds of stuff. Let me know why I do. And he's going to take me to the word. Wait a minute. That means I get to do it big. Yeah. Streets paved with gold. Walk on gold. I ain't got to put it around my neck no more. I can walk on it. What? Everything is good. But if I'm thinking about everything being good, that means I have no time to think about what could possibly be bad. If I'm overflowing my mind with goodness, right? And the milk that a baby gets is goodness to a baby, because watch this, the first thing that we all do when a baby begins to cry is do what? Shove a bottle in their mouth. That's why they're all fat. And let me help you out. Why ain't we getting fat on God? Why are we malnutritious? Why are we so hungry? Watch this. Why are we so thirsty for somebody else to fulfill our desires when God sat back and said, I will do it?
Yes,
be 100. Maybe we ain't getting enough milk. Maybe we too good for milk. Maybe you God don't tolerate it. You know, some people be lactose intolerant. Some people be God don't tolerate it. So they can't take no God. That's all the word is little God. Maybe I'm tripping. I'm playing too much. Way too much. But it says, if in fact you've already tasted the goodness and the gracious kindness of the Lord, why don't you desire his milk? I'm in a place of stuck. And I know how to reverse my stuck is to get on my milk game. I'm gonna have to start drinking more of the word. I have to get on my spiritual milk. I gotta get on the basics of God. I gotta do it more. And the funny part about it is, it ain't like I'm newborn to this. So because newborns don't believe nothing, because I've tasted and seen that God is good and that he's already done these things and that he's doing these things, it ain't hard for me to believe, which means that I now have to expand. The place is stuck looks huge because we see ourselves so small in it. But you're really the giant in a small lane. The Lord says today you come out of stuck because I'm going to make it simple by changing my desire. Father, in the name of Jesus, we bless you today for teaching a much needed word, a transitionary word, an encouraging word, but a soul searching word. Father, I just thank you right now as you pour into our lives healing, examining, bringing forth those things that are not like you for us to put away. Lord, my prayer today is that we take this word not lightly, but proactively, applying it to our lives and counting on you for the urgent change. For Lord, you showed me that this is an urgent situation. This is an urgent season. And that we must be prepared for the turnaround. So Father, I just bless you right now. And if I've done any of these things, or carried any of these things that we've preached on today in my heart, I just ask that you forgive us all. Give us the ability to not only be forgiven, but to turn away from those things. That we would be able to walk as one body, or as a triple cheeseburger, unashamed to be the middle bond, working together for your purpose, your plan, and understanding our roles in it. Father, touch everybody under the sound of my voice. And I just pray that you be magnified in their lives. That is, they're seen, heard, or even encountered, that the people will have an encounter with you. I pray favor upon them and the grace to carry it out. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Any questions? All right. Next time I come on scripture, I wasn't instructed to do nothing otherwise than people. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.